Welcome back to the Gender Playbook. I'm your host, Leanne. In our last episode, we uncovered the vicious cycle of visibility. Less coverage leads to less attention, which equals to less revenue and less coverage. Simone Biles proved that if you give women's sports the spotlight, the audience shows up. So if the audience is here, why are the brands still so hesitant to invest? Let's be honest about the corporate perspective. When brands look at sponsorship opportunities, they follow the money. And right now, the conventional wisdom says men's sports deliver better ROI. Here's the logic they use. Men's league have massive established audience. The NFL averages 17 million viewers per game. The NBA finals draw millions. Brands know exactly what they're getting. Huge reach, predictable returns, and a proven model. Sponsorship decisions are measured in reach, impressions, and conversion rates, and on paper, men's sports win. More viewers, more social media followers, more merchandise sales, more everything. The numbers are seen simple. If you want the biggest return, you bet on the biggest audience, and right now, the men's sports have the biggest audience. But here's where the financial logic gets interesting. In 2024, global sports sponsorship spending hit $60 billion. Women's sports received roughly 5%, only about $3 billion versus $57 billion for men's. That's a ratio of 15 to 1. Yet women's sports viewership is growing 20 to 30% year over year. The 2023 Women's World Cup generated over $570 million. The 2024 NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament outrated the men's final. From purely a financial standpoint, that doesn't add up. If you're a brand looking for growth, for untapped markets, for high engagement audiences, the data is screaming at you to invest in women's sports. The ROI is here. The growth is undeniable. Imagine you're a marketing director with $10 million budget. You can invest in a men's league, saturated, competitive, with flat growth. Or a women's league, hungry audience, less competition, a massive upside. One is a safe bet with diminishing returns, the other is growth opportunity. And here's the kicker, 84% of women's sports fans are more likely to buy from a brand that sponsors women's sports. They notice, they reward, they're loyal. So why do most executives choose men's league? It's not better business, it's safer for their career, the fear of being first, and taking off something called unproven. These are the factors that cause the cycle spinning. Look at the brands that got it right. Barclays sponsored the FA Women's Super League in 2019. Today, the league has exploded in value. FISA's sponsorship of women's football outperformed their men's deals, and the NWSL, their media rights jumped from $4.5 million to nearly $60 million per year in just 2 years, a 1,200% increase. The pattern is clear. Early investors win. So what actually is stopping the rest? The first barrier is the proven product myth. Men's sports are treated as proven, women's as experimental. But the WNBA launched in 1996, the NWSL in 2013, the LPGA in 1950. These aren't startups, they are established institutions that has been systematically undervalued. The barrier too would be the media feedback loop. Brands won't sponsor without coverage. Broadcaster won't increase coverage without sponsorship revenue. The market is stoic that only benefits the gatekeepers. The third barrier is the metrics problem. The data for women's sports is less centralized, less standardized. That makes it harder for nervous marketing directors to justify investments to skeptical boards. We need better data and more transparency. We surveyed over 100 sports fans. 74% said they would be more likely to support a brand that sponsors women's sports. That's not niche. That's a massive demographic brands are ignoring and leaving out. And female athletes often deliver better ROI. They have stronger social media engagement. They integrate brands authentically. They're collaborators, not just endorsers. Women's sports sponsorship isn't charity, it's a smart business, growing audience, loyal fan base, untapped market. The brands that figure this out first will reap the rewards for decades. The data is clear. The hesitation is a multi-billion-dollar mistake. So here's the financial reality. $60 billion in global sponsorship, 5% goes to women's sports. Viewership growing 20 to 30% annually. Sponsorship ratio remains 1 to 15 in favor of men. The math doesn't work. If you're a brand looking for growth, the data is screaming at you. Women's sports fans are more loyal. 84% would report a sponsoring brand. That's commercially viable audience waiting for brands to step up. So why aren't more brands making the leap? Outdated assumptions, fear of being first, but the numbers are impossible to ignore. And here's the truth. Women's sports are rising, not just in popularity, in financial value, in commercial potential in the boardroom. Nike, Visa, Barclays, Microsoft, they're seeing what's being in the front of all of them all along. Women's sports isn't just a good cause, it's a good investment. The question is no longer should we invest, is how soon before our competitors do? The data says women's sports are rising. The question is whether the decision makers will rise with them. Next time on Gender Playbook, we're going to discuss who controls women's sports, either private ownership, league-owned teams, or community-owned, and how does ownership structures affect business decisions and exposure. You wouldn't want to miss next time. Thank you for listening. The data is clear, the rise is real, and the future of sport is already here. See you next time.